airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans. Yay! And welcome to the Allens Investigate with me, Shona Allen.
And I'm Gary Allen, the Cockney Bard.
We're broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM from beautiful New Orleans. This week, we'd like to welcome our special guest, Craig Leonard, actor, auctioneer and military history advisor to film and TV. Craig, a former Royal Fusilier for 6 years, has been involved in running military reenactments and shows all over the United Kingdom for more than 30 years, and his expertise has landed him acting roles in major films including Atonement and Cockney vs. Zombies, to BBC dramas and more recently reconstructions for Lost Relics of the Knights Templar on Sky Television. He has also taken on roles assisting with set design, costume, and as a military history advisor to BBC film and TV, as well as production buying. He supplied vehicles and equipment to dramas such as SAS Rogue Heroes and programs like War Above the Trenches. Craig also runs regular military and vintage fairs. Welcome, Craig.
Welcome, Craig. Wow. Some introduction.
Oh, it's all good. Thank you.
That's quite some resume you've got there, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed.
So when you think like that, it gets a bit embarrassing, but it's what I do.
Well, don't be embarrassed.
No,
it's
no,
really good.
enjoy it. Enjoy it.
Yeah, good for you.
It's part and parcel of starting my own business, if you like, from years ago, from doing the acting through to supplying with reenactments and inevitably to get items to use in reenactments. I bought ex-film props, and this was like over 30, 40 years ago, back in the 80s. So we just used to use the film props for reenactments. So that just progressed on, and then stuff started to hire back. And that's how I started hiring bits and pieces back. And the more you learn about living history, the more you can give advice to other people. And it was just a natural progression to go into films. Sorry, my camera's moving slightly, so you have to...
On the camera.
It's obviously very excited.
It's an excited camera, yes.
So Craig was going to ask you basically, what got you interested in military history, for example?
Oh, well, the military history. When I was 12 years old, I got taken to a military reenactment and watched the Germans shooting the Americans and the British. I thought that looked fun. What you do as 12, I suppose it's a bit like cowboys and Indians, isn't it? So just got involved in it and love living history and the amount of people that I've met from all walks of life, from the most famous people you can think of through to people that haven't got two halfpennies to rub together. So and
they have a real passion for it as well, don't they?
Yeah.
So but I've always done the military history side of things. I've been involved in working on different television shows. I take the Hello cast around for autograph signing at the moment. So it's people that I grew up watching.
And we used to watch that.
Yeah, I grew up watching that as well. Yeah.
Renee and that,
Oh, Renee.
People with friends that are in the film industry who are really high up in the film industry, and I can pass items on to them. If they get stuck for a certain prop, they'll ring me up and say, look, we're looking for this, we're looking for that. Hence, I ended up owning something like 28 military vehicles. So,
wow.
That's amazing, isn't it?
What kind of military vehicles?
Oh, all sorts. I've got armoured cars, motorbike and sidecars, trucks. So you see some of them in Lost Relics of the Knights Templar. One of my vehicles onto SAS Rogue Heroes, which was a BBC drama recently. All sorts of bits and pieces, really.
Yeah, we've got a friend, haven't we? Who's he's really into the military stuff, isn't he?
Yes, he's got some military trucks, isn't he?
Yeah, God, he'd love you with
we
all
like
your knowledge.
We like a bit of the dressing up, the reenactment at the 1940s events, because we have some railway events, steam railway events, and once a year in Norfolk, and they do some 1940s reenactments. But it's really lovely because the whole atmosphere and everything. I mean, I know you can't really glorify war, I understand that, but I think it's the spirit of the atmosphere and everything, and they usually culminate it with flying a Spitfire over as well, and it just, the feeling of that is amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
We've got the Severn Valley Railway here, and I used to run their event for them for 17 years, and we did some of the best battles in the country. In fact, some of them are so good, they're legendary now amongst the reenactment community. So I was stuff. But we were using proper Section 5 weapons. We'd have like 3 or 4 original G42. We even had original 50 calibers firing rounds, but we had to tell the public to put their fingers in the rears because they were so.
Yeah, it can be a bit noisy, can't it? Definitely.
Yeah, so I'm having a real problem with my
your camera.
Yeah, I didn't push the on the back. I've just done it now.
Maybe you need some WD-40 on it or something.
Some sticky tape. We can recommend it.
Sticky back plastic.
On me, press the arm in, and I forgot to do it. So,
we understand you've known Hamilton White for quite some time.
Hamilton, yeah, he's been over 30 odd years.
Wow.
It was through Hamilton when we first started discussing the relics and the hoards. So this is where the psychometry comes in, from reading objects. But this is hence the backdrop of the Templars. These are the costumes.
I was going to say,
Well, it's my tribute to Hamilton, I suppose, because these are the costumes I was wearing on the show.
Oh, wow.
That you've got the studio picture of me in.
Yes,
Because we really enjoyed the first series of Lost Relics of Knights Templar.
Yeah.
The first one was really good,
Yeah, well, I think the second one was better.
Did you think the second one was better, yeah?
Yeah, but they haven't gone for a third season yet, and I think they're really missing out on a trick with that one, because Hamilton still got the most incredible items that they haven't seen.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing stuff.
He has an amazing collection, and he's also extremely knowledgeable on it all as well. It's one thing collecting things, but to be so knowledgeable on them.
Yeah, he's one of the cleverest men you will meet. He really is.
Yeah.
I hope your ears are burning, Hamilton, if you're listening to this.
He knows, that I speak highly of him, and I would do, because I've learned an awful lot of him. I mean, when I met him over 25 years ago, I was selling him some Roman coins. And I broken Roman fibulas and some Roman coins that I'd found metal detecting. And a friend of mine had died, fortunately, and I got given his collection to pass on. And that's how I met Hamilton. And when he came down, he says, "Oh yeah, I've just been to pick up a Norman sword." And I think, well, yeah, here we go. Oh, really? Yes, it's in the boot of the car. I thought, I believe
as you do.
Yeah.
I'll just chuck it in the boot of the car. Yeah.
You didn't have an egg with it, I hope.
Huge Norman sword out with the Templar Knights kind of. And I was like, wow. And I said, I can't believe that you've got that. But is it real? And he says, oh, yeah, I got a Viking one in the car as well. And so we went and pulled out a Viking sword as well, with the tree of life ingrained into it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was my first experience of what I could find in this country was rubbish compared to what that man can locate.
Oh, yeah.
But over the years, I've learned to pick up a lot of stuff myself, and now I work as an auctioneer. Run my own company called Wild Forest Auction, so I deal with deceased estates. So as an auctioneer, you see everything that man's ever made coming door. So I've handled Roman helmets and Norman swords, and thanks to Hamilton, and Celtic neck talks, all the way through to I found stone axes, metal detecting, to all sorts, to coins.
Wow.
You find everything. Uniforms come through the door. It's something will survive somewhere.
Oh yeah.
See, I always think, when you find these things, I mean, I was lucky enough to go on a local archaeological dig, and they were excavating Roman pottery kilns, and that was really interesting. And the thing is that when you uncover something, to be the first person to ever touch that item that may have lain there for thousands of years, I mean, it's just totally thrilling, isn't it?
Huge thrill, but you're holding that piece of history, but you're then the keeper of that for a very short blink of time. But that leads us into living history and reenactment. It's the only way you get to time travel. So you learn these items were used and how they were done, and it's a fascinating subject. And but the experiences from the supernatural as well, which I'm sure.
Wow. Well, tell us a bit more about the supernatural experiences, because I know I've had a brief chat with you before about some of your experiences, which were amazing. So can you expand on that then, please?
Slightly. I mean, one of the things we did, I dug a World War I trench and we did a rock video called Wake Down. You could probably the internet, but we were joined in the trench by a ghost.
Oh, really?
The worst thing is that we just stood and did a studio sort of photographic shot of the lads in the trenches, and 15 foot up in the air, which we didn't see. But when the photo came out, it was a World War I soldier wearing all his web in his hand.
Oh, wow.
And
that's
it's
amazing.
the most incredible ghost photo I've seen. But when you zoom into it, it disappears into trees and bushes. And I've actually got a copy of the photo, and you can just, I don't know if you can see that, but you can just see the head on the top.
Oh, yes, I can see it. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I can see it.
I'll bring it in closer, but when it goes really close, it's not actually there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting, isn't it?
Sorry, my camera skills aren't brilliant.
No, don't worry.
No, that's all right. Don't you worry. Don't you worry.
But that's amazing. Did you actually feel anything? Did you sense anything while you were doing that?
No, nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing at all.
Interesting.
Everything felt a bit weird when we were there anyway. But to see that photo, you can see the colour photo of the lads there, and then when you see that World War I head popping up, which is actually a fence post, a stick, and I think there's a name for it called pareidolia or something like that. That's what they call it, but it's too accurate. He's wearing the correct helmet, the correct webbing, even where the correct webbing straps are on the back, correct size bayonet, the correct type of rifle. It's to me, it's an impossibility for it.
Well, it's an hard thing, like ghosts are an hard thing to explain. But if you've seen one, as I have as well, I see my friend's dead wife. So I totally accept that there is some form of life after death. How it is, I have no idea. But I do totally accept that, having seen that myself. So, it doesn't matter what anyone thinks or they don't think. If you experience it, how genuine it is.
I can only tell you the experiences that I've had. There's another that I was out metal detecting, and I found this little stone cat. And it was out in the fields at the back, because Hamilton's done some work, because where we film is a place called Low Haberley in Kidderminster. That's where we've done a lot of the Sky history program stuff. We've done other films there as well, Memories of a Sikh Soldier, and lots of other different films. And there's ley lines that cross it, and if you ever do anything with ley lines, I understand what they are, but I've never worked with them. But Hamilton showed me on the map that's where they are. He's done dowsing. There's an ancient burial mound there, and up by the burial mound, when I was metal detecting, I found an area by the side of which is basically a sunken path. There's a sunken pathway there, and the route that my fields are on is, if you went from the River Severn and you headed up towards Birmingham, there's a Roman road that crosses the River Severn, and it goes across the bottom of my field. But it's also a more ancient trackway. Now, I found Viking artifacts there. I found Roman brooches, coins, all sorts of bits and pieces.
Wow. Yeah.
And the whole site of my field is an English Civil War battlefield from the of Worcester, which was the last battle in the English Civil War. So when all the soldiers left Worcester, all the Scottish, the Royalist troops were being hunted down by the parliamentarians and basically being shot in a 20-mile swathe. So there's all from the River Severn all the way up through half over into Chadsley. There's areas there where you find small engagements where Royalists and parliamentarians had been on that retreat and when they've been shooting. But where I am on Low Habley, it was a very flat area, and they'd got to get over the river to be safe, which was classed as going into Wales. There's an area called Catcham's End there. So when they escaped Worcester, they had to come down through Holtfleet. Parliamentarian forces had blocked that off. The only other place was crossing the river at Bewdley, and there's a place called Catcham's End. And it was called that because if they got over the bridge at Catcham's End by Bewdley, then they were free to escape back into Wales. And the parliamentarians blocked that off. So the only other route was back up at Bridge North. But that's too far to go in one day. So they camped just off the area of my field, but they'd had an engagement. So there was thousands of troops trying to escape over the fields where we were. So that's why I went metal detecting in that area. So anyway, I found this little carved stone cat, which wasn't a metal detecting find. It's an eyes only find. So, but when you metal him, you look at the surface of the soil. So you're looking, you train your eyes in for bits of pottery or bits of flint. And in this case, I found this little bit of carved stone, which was a cat. And it felt weird. And when I found it, the atmosphere sort of changed a little bit. And I thought, do you know what? I don't know what this is. But when I see Hamilton, I'll give it to him because he's a pretty good expert on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I gave it to Hamilton. And when I saw him, it was a few weeks later, it felt right. And he says, oh, I know the person for this. And this is a friend of his called Sabine. She's a television presenter over in Germany. Very attractive lady, but she'd come over a couple of times and I'd never met her. And so he sent this cat off, but Sabine, she also reads objects and items.
Okay.
And not knowing, Sabine on one of her visits with Hamilton had been in this sunken lane. And I didn't know anything about it. And Hamilton came back to me with this. Basically, Sabine had told him when she got this cat, without him saying where it was from, she identified the exact sunken lane. And it is where she'd met Hamilton, and she was telling Hamilton that this knight or somebody of wealth had been attacked and murdered in this lane, and it was something to do with him. So I'd found this cat in the ploughed field, which is literally no more than 5 meters away from where Sabine had stopped a year previously to say that this is where she'd had a really strong feeling of this knight being killed. But
that's incredible.
But it makes sense as well because we didn't know a lot of this stuff. More stuff's coming to light about the Templars in the area, and there was no known Templar associations, but we're starting to find Templar grave marks over in places called Kimver. There's areas over in Bromsgrove. It's all in a smaller area where they didn't know anything about it. And it's all tying in. And Wolverley, which is the route that this path heads towards, was an area that was sacked by the Vikings twice. It's a very old village going back through to the Doomsday. So it was a known trackway, and it's a known area where all different ages would have gone up and down. So
can we just explain sorry, Craig, can we just explain to the listeners that you're talking about psychometry?
Yes.
The reading of objects.
Yes.
Just so that they can search for themselves and get a bit more understanding on it.
This stone cat, this is what Sabine was doing. She was reading the information off this stone cat. And I didn't know what that was, which is what I'm leading into now. And I'd done something similar with Hamilton when I first started to work with the Templar Knight Horde relics. Hamilton was giving, because I don't know, but some people see things and some people feel things, and you get information in the middle of your head that is clearly not anything to do with you. And you find out it's exactly accurate, and you know where that thought's come from. And that's what psychometry is, from what I can work. You know, I'm not trained in it. I know nothing about it in that sense.
Well, no, I was going to say, Craig, the thing is, I mean, these, to me, in my opinion, these are all natural abilities that we all have. It's just that, unfortunately, for various reasons, you know, we don't always, people don't realize it. It's kind of children. I think children are really, really sensitive. And of course, as they sort of get older and things, they just gradually, it just fades away because they're usually told, well, don't be silly. If they've got what they call an imaginary friend, might not be an imaginary friend at all. They might be seeing a spirit, but unfortunately to most people it's just, oh, it's just an imaginary friend, don't be silly. And eventually they kind of think, oh well, you know, I'm just being silly, I just won't
I dare say, Craig, you've never read a book on anything mystical or psychic or anything like that in your life, have you?
I've read different ones. I read stories from Doris Stokes when I was a kid about me.
Okay.
I'm well aware of it, but I've never dabbled into it. I've never really sat there and studied it. But with what I do as a job, I'm constantly going into areas of deceased estates.
Yeah.
And because I've been dealing with old and, you know, items for all my life, really, since I was 12 years old, I can almost read items in my hand and tell whether that's a skill from picking it up of years of learning from objects, or whether it's something completely different. I don't know. That's why I always question myself. But when Hamilton gave me a sword from out of the relic, and it got a name associated with it, and basically I gave Hamilton the name of the owner of this sword, and it came to me. Now, when I tried to write it down, it made absolutely no sense whatsoever. And Hamilton pretty much dismissed it, but he went and pursued it. And I actually gave him the 13th century French Latin name of the owner of the sword.
Wow.
And there's no possible way on this planet I have known that. I don't know century Latin, but I'd actually felt it. And when it was broken down, Hamilton had shown it to an expert who sadly passed on now. He was the one that translated the name of the sword, and it was basically William. But I'd give him the 13th century Latin name for it.
Wow,
now, I don't know how that works.
But it does. That's the king. People don't know how it works. It's quite a mystery, really. But you do get amazing things. Shona gets some amazing Egyptian things and loads of other stuff, and I get stuff, and you think, where the hell did that come from? How the hell do you know that? You know.
I mean, there's also round objects. There's power in objects. I mean, we was working with the white chalice, which is one of the white chalices out of the Horde. And we were filming season 2, and we'd gone into the studio section I'd built. It was basically in a barn. And there's an area, you'll see it on season 2. I can't remember what episode it is, but it's the white chalice. And I was kneeling down. There's photos on my Facebook, but I was kneeling down on these mats. We got the camera crew going there. It wasn't warm. It was quite, it was quite chilly. And we just got everything set up. And I felt the urge to recite a Latin sword prayer, as you do.
As you do, yeah. So I do that every lunchtime.
Yeah. Very normal.
It was the moment I was in where it was gone all dark. I got Roman pillars around me. I got Templar bits and pieces out. I'm in that setting that I created, and I'm sitting there with this most fantastic chalice that was used by the Knights Templar in ceremonies. No one's not really allowed to touch it. I was allowed to touch it through Hamilton, obviously, because of what I was doing. I was playing the Grand Master. So I started to recite the Latin sword prayer. And all the cameras, the temperature dropped 10 degrees.
Yeah.
All the camera batteries died, and all the lights went out on all the cameras. And they just charged all the cameras up. They couldn't.
Yeah.
They had to go outside and put fresh batteries in. They came back in. We were there about my breath. You could see my breath. You could see Hamilton's breath. It was all of a sudden. It was that temperature drop of 10 degrees, and everything went out. And
I wish they wouldn't drain the batteries. It's a bit of a nuisance, isn't it?
Don't do it tonight if you're listening.
and then all of a sudden, it all came back on, all the power came back on, if you like, and the temperature went back up, and we both went, that was weird.
Yeah, no, I can understand.
I should think probably the production crew thought it was a bit weird as well, because I mean, if they've just charged everything up and it's suddenly drained, that's not normal, is it?
We had a ghost hunting crew come down to my field. As I explained, it was a battle site there, and we had this. I've never worked with a ghost hunting crew before in my life. I hadn't a clue. I've only ever seen the programs on television, you know, like Paranormal Investigation, that kind of thing, and. I used to watch a bit of Derek Acora, which, you know, that was terrible show. But ghost hunting crew, and I was interested because when I walk down my track at night, my track's probably about 700 or 800 yards long. It's quite a long walk. And when I go back down there, it's very enclosed with the trees, and it's an old area of where it was. It was next to a 17th century coaching inn. And I got a feeling that the tree at the top was used for hanging. And when I climb over my gate, it's great in the field, but when I climb over my gate, someone follows me. And it got so uneasy all the time. Every time I walked down there, especially at night time, I just felt like there was somebody behind me all the time. So I called these ghost hunting team in. So there's 4 or 5 of them. I invited Hamilton down and a friend of his called Roland. And Roland's, you know, quite into that thing as well. He can pick up on stuff as well. So we got me, Hamilton, and Roland there, and this ghost hunting crew. And they said, right, what we want you to do then is walk down the track, and we'll got this temperature gun, and we will fire this temperature gun and see what changes there are. I said, well, that worked. I went, yeah, so just do what you normally do and walk down the track. So I started walking down the track, and the man says to me, do you want the good news or do you want the bad news? I went,
oh, that sounds ominous.
I've wasted your time. He says, no, he said, the bad news is, he said, there's definitely something behind you. I said, well, what's the good news? He says, you just proved it. There's a 6-degree temperature drop following you up the track. So this temperature drop was following me up the track. Now, you can't prove what that is, whether that's is that a spirit? Is that a ghost? I don't know. But all they can do is give you the science. And the science was there was a 6-degree temperature fluctuation. So it's colder by 6 degrees directly behind, moving up the track directly behind me. So field then, and they put out a series of 7 lights. Now this is a cut grass field. I've got horses in, and they said, well, where do you think's the most active? I said, well, up by that hedge there, because I found a lot of impacted musket balls into the hedge. I said, feeling they were shooting at each other there, and it always felt a little bit weird there. I said, so they put these lights down, and these lights only work if you either physically go up and touch them or kick them, or whether somebody is using an electromagnetic force on top of them, and then the light will switch on. So they put 7 of them in a row, and so they put them all down, and we stood about 20 feet back from them. So there's no tremors in the ground or anything like that. No one's moving. It's about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. It was quite dark. And I said, well, what's supposed to happen now? They said, well, we would like them to turn the lights on. I said, well, as a joke, I said, shall I ask the spirits to turn the lights on? They said, well, if you can do that. I said, well, I don't know, but I said, can you please prove that you're here and turn the lights on? Every single light went on, one after the other. Bum, 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 bum. And
amazing.
My jaw dropped. And anyway, they did a few more investigations. They used a spirit box, and the name of a lady kept coming over. And then somebody else was saying, don't talk to them. And with the boxes, I know that to get a sentence in there is very difficult. And there was almost like a conversation going on in that. I can't, unfortunately, none of that's recorded. I haven't got any of that.
No. I think the sad thing is, Craig, is on television, a lot of programs, they are made for TV, and so they do a lot of acting. And, we know that there is some genuine paranormal phenomena. And but the problem is programs, for entertainment purposes only, and, absolute rubbish. And, it's a shame because it's degrading what there really is there,
I mean, I'll give you another great example working with the Horde. I was at home one night, and had this real urge to ring Hamilton, and I rang him up. The problem is I can't say too much because it makes the Horde sound absolutely, what's going on with it. But it's so powerful. There's a lot of objects Hamilton's got. I'm not going to say that.
It's a massive collection. Yeah.
But what came out of that Horde is well over 50 items. And I got this compulsion working with the Horde. There's a guardian spirit with that Horde, 100%. And I urged to ring Hamilton up. And I said, Hamilton, you've done something in the upstairs room. This is before all the television program was going on. This was before that. So all that Horde now is not with Hamilton. It's all securely locked away. So he's learned lessons from it, let's put it this way. But he had a piece of this Horde which was was probably the grave marker or the cross that you might have seen in the program, and he got it leaning up against this wooden board. And I said, Hamilton, to me, I can see this object is leaning on this other object, and I said, and it's starting to burn. I can see flames. There's a fire. I said, you must go upstairs. I said, I don't know what it is, but you've got really good against really evil. I said, and there's something going on. You need to go upstairs. And he was like, well, okay. He's learned to listen to me in the past.
Yeah.
So he's gone upstairs and he's gone into the room where there's no one there but Hamilton. And he smelt burning. And he's gone over to the grave marker, which I told him about. Now, bear in mind, I hadn't gone in there. I didn't know anything. I can only remote view.
Okay.
Going on. And I said, you must, this stone with the cross on it, I said, it is causing a fire, if you like. And he got it leaning against this cloth, and the cloth was scorched.
Really?
And he ran back. He says, yeah. He says, you're right. I said, well, what was it against? He says, the door out of Eva Braun's room in Hitler's bunker at the Reichschancellery bunker.
Wow.
So one of the cupboard doors at Eva Braun, because he's got that door. So you got the Nazi connotations leaning against the Templar connotations, and it was good against evil. Now, whether you believe in stuff like that or not, I don't know. But when I showed me the tablecloth, and it got a brown scorch mark on.
But it's really interesting, Craig, because I had a kind of similar experience in this really old cottage that I used to live in when I was a little girl with my parents. And we had this big tapestry. It was an antique tapestry hanging on our wall, and all the walls are whitewashed. Now, my mum was all by herself watching some TV one night, and all of a sudden, it didn't just fall off the wall. It was like someone ripped it off. Anyway, so she was a little bit freaked out by that. And so she told me about it in the morning. And I went to look at this place. It was kind of like a gangway leading into our living room where the TV was. When I went to look where the wall hanging had been hanging on the wall, there was a singed sort of imprint of a thumb and a forefinger on the wall.
Yeah, I remember you saying about that.
So, and can't explain that. That was amazing.
So we do understand that.
Anyway, needless to say, my mum told whatever it was off and said, look, it's staying up there. I like it. Don't do it again.
But if spirits are taking the form of an energy, then surely they've got the ability to use that energy and turn the temperature up, if you like.
Of course. Sure, yeah, of course.
I mean, there's plenty of people out there who understand it far better than I do.
Well, I don't think anybody really knows 100%. I mean, everybody has their ideas. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that sort of claim to be experts or are given the title expert on
everything
on the paranormal, but I think really we can make conclusions and have ideas about these things, but we don't 100% know. I don't think
you don't. You can't possibly know, can you? It's all superstition, really.
Well, I mean, I don't like talking about it to people. I mean, there'll be a lot of people listening into this who probably know me going, crikey, I didn't know you knew anything like
This could end your career.
I bet they're probably saying with a light bulb, saying, we could use that, save on electricity bills, could we?
Yeah, but it just makes sound a bit crazy, doesn't it? So you don't like I don't like to talk about it so much.
No,
but
no.
No,
I'm with you on that, Craig. It's very difficult, isn't it? Because, when you're used to it yourself and you have loads of experiences and things, I mean, it's really amazing. But to someone who maybe works in an office and has never had an experience, it's just completely crazy to them. It's alien to them, isn't it?
Yeah.
I just think from working with the Templar Hood, because I've worked with it now for it's got to be 12 years plus, and I think a bit of it rubs off on you. I think the power of it, I mean, unless you start handling those objects, you really don't understand how Hamilton's, to me, sitting on a time bomb with it, It's
amazing.
Supercharged out of, there's something going on with that, which is 100% science can't explain. Absolutely.
Well, it's difficult.
Well, not mainstream science, at least. No, but I don't know how he sleeps at night with all that energy, the different energies going on.
I mean, yeah, that's quite right. I mean, the point of it is, we've both seen the rooms and that, and we've been in there, and the drop in temperature was amazing.
Yeah.
And once we went in, it was so hot, and then it was freezing cold, and I went with Hamilton to Montsegur, and the camera, I tried to take some pictures up there and didn't get one picture, did I?
No.
Not one. No, I was very disappointed in that. They didn't want me to take any photos, as obvious. I could have got a good one of Rick Stanley, but forget about that.
Where I am now, it's my office, and there's only one door off the bedroom. And I would quite frequently get footsteps in and out of here. And I think sometimes we bring objects into our homes that bring something with it. And that item, I mean, I know a friend of mine down in Portsmouth, he'd got a huge badge collection of fire brigade badges, military badges, etc. And he used to go into his office quite regularly, and somebody had opened all the drawers up and moved all the badges around. And he basically went in there one day and seen this apparition and moved in the area where his cabinets were, which freaked him out. So he rang up the lady where he had bought some of them from, and he spoke to her about it. And she said, yes, he'd been dead 10 or 15 years. She wondered whether or not he was going to, I think it was Derek, his name was, or something, that whether he was going to follow his objects. And basically, as a spirit, he just liked to look through his badge collection. And because John had bought it as a collector and added it to his, and there was suddenly this spirit had got a whole new collection of badges to go through and look at.
Wow. It's amazing though, but obviously, I mean, they're looking at these things, from the spirit world, if you like, and they're just saying, they do take an active interest in things. I mean, we've had things go disappearing in our house quite frequently.
That's on my tip. I keep nicking my glasses.
That's when they're not on the head, though.
Hold it.
A lot of people, they put items down, and it could be a key, could be a necklace, and it'll disappear, and then months later, same place. They're different.
We had quite a strange experience a couple of days ago that Gary bought me some lovely lilies in a vase, and I filled it right up to the top. It's quite a big vase with water.
Yeah.
And I looked at them the next day thinking, why are they wilting? And all the water had gone.
Yeah, absolutely no explanation for that at all.
No spillage anywhere, just disappeared out of the vase.
Completely disappeared. So if there's any gardeners out there, any experts, we'd like to know how the water disappeared. Because it's quite amazing.
Maybe you were sleepwalking and thirsty in your sleep
or
something.
Maybe.
You know what? It's a different thing, but it reminds me of a story of when we went reenacting Living History at a place called Boscobel House, which again Charles hid in the oak tree when he was trying to escape. And we were doing a reenactment show there, 15 years ago, perhaps 16 years ago. I got my metal detector with me. We were in an area of where the outside the house, and I was speaking to the curator, and I said, is there any chance of doing a little bit of metal detecting? He said, you can't round here. He said, but you can have a go over on the campsite section where you are. It's quite rough. He said, you can do that and have a go. And I thought, brilliant. Have a little bit of metal detecting around Boscobel House. You can't go wrong there. And so on the night, when we'd all finished, you know, doing our reenactment chores as it was, and it was going quieter, I thought I'll get the metal detector out and I'll walk over this area where the campsite was. So as I say, I got permission. It wasn't doing it without permission. I said anything I'll find there, I'll give to the house in the morning. And a storm started up. Now I couldn't go to where Charles had hid in the oak tree because it's not actually at Boscoville House. It's further down, probably about a quarter of a mile away from where the house was, where he hid in the tree. So you'd have to walk all across the ploughed fields to get there. I was being a bit lazy, so I thought I'll stick to where we were. But there's underneath this other great big oak tree, which was in the grounds. So I'm metal detecting away, and it was weird. It was almost like I was being pushed away. And then all this storm started up. There was no rain, but there was really high winds. There was electrical lightning going on. There was all sorts. So I thought, well, I can't go out if I get electrocuted, but it's not raining. It was really weird. So I went under this tree, and the canopy of the tree was probably about 40 feet, and it was very dry soil. And I thought, well, if it's going to rain, I won't get wet under here. I thought I'll have to stop because it was a proper storm. Wind was really up. It was really bad, and I just couldn't find anything at all. But I always felt that there was a presence there, like a really horrible presence. And it was just like almost like in your head, like get out, get out, get out.
Yeah.
Said, I'm not going anywhere until you let me find something. And it got so bad. And I was like, I got more angrier, saying, I'm not going until I get something. And one of us broke because all of a sudden the wind stopped. It went perfectly still. And then it was beep, 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 beep. There was signals everywhere. And I was digging up musket balls. And I was, these are great. These are musket balls. And I was picking them up and putting them in my bag. So that I finished, the wind died down, and then it started back up again. And I said, thank you very much. You let me find something. I'll go to bed now. I said that to the spirit, whoever it was under the tree. So I went to bed, woke up in the morning, and must have been 20 or 30 of these musket balls. And they look brand new. So I took them over, all excited, to show the curator of the museum. And I said, look, without metal detecting, all these are from under the tree. He said, well, they can't be original musket balls. He said, they all look brand new. They all look too good. Because when lead's cast first, it's very shiny. And over a couple of 100 years, it goes really dark grey. And it starts to get like a white powder on it. And it's a verdigris where the metal breaks down. And he traces the verdigris on there. But the metal in areas was shiny and other areas were dark grey. And I said, these have got age to them. He said, they must have been dropped by reenactors. I said, well, that's impossible. He says, because reenactors, even over the years, aren't using musket balls to fire at each other. They're reenactors. They use black.
Slightly dangerous.
Yeah, slightly.
I think the health and safety team might be onto that one.
And it took him a bit of convincing, but he had all these musket balls, and they ended up in the display case there. But that was such a good thing to happen. It really was.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What do you feel yourself happened there? Do you feel that maybe there was a bit of a time slip or something that happened there? What do you think?
No, I've experienced it on several locations. I've gone out metal detecting knowing I'm going to find a particular artifact in a particular area. And I've gone out there on a field of something like 80-acre field. And there've been absolutely nothing. And I've walked across just in the right spot to find a full Celtic gold stater.
Wow.
8 years old. And my friends were so far away, I had to ring them up on a WhatsApp video call to say, look at this, what I found. Because this field was 80 acres big. And it ended up being for the Dubonnie tribe. And where I'd found it was the other side of Wolverhampton. For your viewers that don't know that area or the Celtic history, that kind shouldn't have been there. It should have been in the Cotswolds. So it was the furthest travelled coin for that particular Celtic tribe. Boundaries like 40 miles further than what they should have been. But there was nothing else on the field. Absolutely nothing. Not even a piece of lead, not even a button. Absolutely barren. But I walked across it, found it, and I could have literally blown the dust off it with my breath. It wasn't even buried. It was just a very light covering of dust over the top of it on this ploughed field.
Amazing.
And
so it makes me wonder if maybe, I was going to say, it makes me wonder if maybe that, you know, the spirit world, as I call them, might be leading you to finding things, to be a guardian of them, to look after them.
If you're meant to find something, you will find it. It will find you. If people go to a car boot sale and they're a collector, they could look round 100 stalls, but they might find that item that they collect there, and they go thinking, "Oh, that was lucky." But then they'll go to the next car boot and they'll find something that they collect, and it could be the most random, obscure things. And other people are going, "Well, I collect that, and I've been going there for years. How come you find it?" That one person keeps finding that stuff that they collect, and it's waiting for you. It's drawn to you. And I think you can influence things that you want to find by positive thinking as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's kind of making me think of that TV program Detectorist. I don't know if you've seen that, have you?
Fantastic. What a gentle...
Yeah, I love that series, but I'm thinking that these stories would be an incredible storyline for them, because in a way, you know, he was kind of focusing on, you know, to get this gold, and then this wonderful bit where the magpie basically has a nest they've been detectoring all this time, and then the magpie's been collecting all these gold Roman coins in the nest, and then on the end program they all fall down at their feet, don't they?
Yeah,
but I was going to say the key to that is in the storyline, which I thought was great, was the very moment that they decided that actually they should share rather than trying to keep, you know, the field and detectoring to themselves. The moment they thought, well, okay, we should just share it, that's when it came
so it had a
to
good
them.
moral story to it,
yes,
didn't
it did.
Whoever wrote that program understood metal detecting, because a lot of what happens in that program, I've been in metal detecting clubs for years, and it is exactly like that in some of these clubs. You know, there's like 2 or 3 members, or they've been there 30 odd years, or there's only 8.
Not found a sausage.
So yeah,
we did think that we'd like to do that, didn't we? Metal detecting at some point.
I'd like to have a go. Yeah, but I think it was Mackenzie Crook who actually starred in it. I think he wrote it as well. So he's a very clever man.
Yeah, metal detectorist, from what I can gather. I think he does go out metal detecting. As I say,
he does himself.
He's got to have it with that understanding of it, you know.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. But that's the only part they probably don't know about, is that, you know, with the intuition does definitely lead you to things, doesn't it? I've thought about myself sometimes. I've thought, well, you know, I get something in my mind and I think I want to get that. I need to get that. And then you'll turn up in a shop and there it is. Just as you've seen in your mind. So I think that the mind is very powerful, actually, if we know how to use it properly.
Yeah. I mean, I've had lots of bits. I'm a magpie myself. I collect all sorts of bits and pieces, and I've needed items that clients have asked me for example, whether it be for a film or something. And I've gone, well, I haven't seen any for years, but I'll go out and have a look. And blow me, I've found it within that week, just before the deadline of where they need it. So I get a lot of buyers now ringing me up going, Craig, we need this by got it in the warehouse, and I'm like,
by Thursday.
Focus on it and get it.
Find it. It'll be the most obscure items. It really can. Everything from like 1960s mattresses onwards. I mean, I'm finding stuff at the moment for Stephen Knight's doing a new program called Two Tones, and it's about the ska movement. So I've been supplying a lot of props for that and bits and pieces, and I'm getting, can you get, you know, 1970s food stuff? And I'm scratching my head thinking, where get food packaging from? And when I work as an auctioneer, I've gone into a house and I've opened the door up and there's all this 1970s food packaging, and I'm thinking, you can't make it up. You know,
well, I tell you what, if my nan was still alive, you'd have found loads of 1970s product in her cupboard, because she never threw anything away.
20-year-old food stock.
Oh dear.
Do you know what? When I go into people's houses now, if it's a deceased estate, and this might sound a bit weird, but I explain why I'm there. I mean, I'm going in there and I'm probably the only person there, but I will explain that, you know, your life has passed and this is the next stage. I'm here to do my job now for your family, to move items on and they can have some money back and it won't go to landfill. I'll recycle this and I'll do that. And I almost explain to the spirit, and the whole vibe of the house changes.
Very interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
Because that's a lovely thing, because I think that, you know, a lot of these people that go and do these house clearances have not necessarily got the best intentions.
It's just about money, isn't it? No, it's just about money.
That's right. So it's lovely that you're doing
that.
that.
It's lovely that you've got that. I understand you've got some horses, Craig, as well.
Yeah, that's why I've got the field where I've had all the ghost hunting and stuff, because that's where I keep my horses.
So have they picked up anything, do you think? Are they a bit sensitive to energies and things?
Well, they're sensitive to the fact that every time I get a television camera out, the one deliberately goes lame. I'm riding you this week. You're a Templar night horse. No, I'm not, Dad. I've gone.
I've gone lame. I've got a dodgy leg.
Perfect.
They're very funny, aren't they? They've real got characters. All animals have got their own characteristics.
Yeah, I've got Shetland as well. Likes to turn everything.
My daughter, she's going to want to come over.
Yeah,
and
we'll have to come and meet you one day, Craig. And you know, she just loves, as Shona does, loves horses. You know,
hey, more than welcome. Well, I built a film set because I'm doing a program called Trenchers, and it's a program that I started up basically when COVID was on. I was trying to raise money for the British Legion, so I thought, okay, let's start a web series. I can't do any filming, can't get a television company to buy the program, so I thought, well, what can I do? So thinking of programs like Dad's Army, Blackadder, all things like that. I thought, if I do it in World War I can set it in a trench. So set of a trench above ground, so it's not actually in the ground, and that's on my field. And I invited a few friends over. We get all the World War I costumes and uniforms together, and we've done a whole web series like similar to what you're doing, but as we're live as well, and we called it Trenchers. And then got the money for World War I, but I was putting lots of original items in there that we were using, and we had some really weird things going on. When it happened when we were filming.
Well, it just reminded me of a story, like talking to you about, you know, things. Is that when Shona was heavily pregnant, we were driving in the car and we were approaching a bend, and I could hear the unborn baby, which is Amber, she's now 10, but I could hear her saying, "Slow down, Daddy, slow down." So this came about 2 or 3 times. "Slow down, Daddy, slow down." So I slowed right down. And as I slowed right down, coming from round the bend was this idiot on the wrong side of the road. And had I not slowed down, we would have had an head on, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
So it just shows you that you know, that voice in the head, wherever it comes from. I mean, that's truly amazing. An unborn baby, extraordinary.
I think they got spirit guides around you. I think everyone's got spirit guides. Friends that have been ill recently, and I think one of my spirit guides, if you like, is a wolf, and I've asked my wolf several times now to go to some seriously ill friends, and they've said, "Craig, can you send me your wolf?" And it's almost like come as a joke, if you like. And you know what? At the 3 people I've done that to, they've all got better from very life friends.
That sounds like maybe a power animal or something, because usually you have a power animal and you have, you know, different ones that you feel drawn to that you can see.
Yeah, I don't know. As a friend of mine, he's ex-SAS and he was really ill in hospital, and his partner Deb didn't think he was going to get through it, and sending healing blessings and love. And well, you pray for people, don't you, in that sense?
Absolutely, yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
what religion you have, whether you're a spiritual, whether you believe in God and Jesus Christ and all that. I think more in the spirit world rather than one particular named individual. And the way that I see it is there's a lot of wise men up there. So when it's your turn to go, you go up there and you get asked a series of questions. And the one person at the end is the supervisor, and you've got to answer to him. And then he will then say, do you want to go back or not? And you go back,
you're
not bloody likely.
You're not on the list. You're not coming in.
You're not coming in.
Some people don't go back and other people go back. So if you're having a really horrible, hard time in this life, it's probably had a much easier life in a previous time. And I do believe in that we do relive if you want to, you know, rebirth. And I've had something called regression done. And I had it by probably the world's leading hypnotist at the time called Joe Keaton. I don't know if you ever heard that name. Basically, 16 or 17, the Daily Star newspaper was running an article on regression, and I got really interested in it from reading it in the paper. And it was about hypnotic regression back to previous lives. And when I got up there, because this newspaper reporter had been writing all these articles, and they'd said that they got this place in Birmingham, this hotel, I think it was the Mercury Hotel, and they said, anyone that wants to come, go up. And I said, Dad, I want to go. And he said, I'll go with him. My oldest brother, Kevin, came as well. And we all went up there to listen to this hypnotist called Joe Keaton. He's probably gone now. But he'd got some of his subjects in there that he'd done lots of previous regression on. And he said, is there any volunteers? Well, of course, you know, I have to put my hand up. And I go, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to go. I'd love to know if I could be regressed back. So I sat in this chair. And he started to do, what he was doing was basically saying, imagine you're in a lift. He said, you can use this technique to go to sleep. He said, if you can't sleep and you're suffering from insomnia, he says, you start off on the 10th floor and your lift goes down till you get to ground. So you watch this old-fashioned lift where you've got the old metal door that is like a chain one where you open it and it like concertina opens, and you can watch the bricks go past. He said, and follow each level down from 10 to 9 to 8. Each time you go down, it gets darker and darker. And when you get to 1, when you see that last bit and you go to ground, then you should be asleep. And if that doesn't work, then you go into the cellar and the basement. He said, you'll find it relaxed. So use that technique to go to sleep. So I did for years, and that works fantastic. But I couldn't get back to that bit of regression because I kept choking. He says, you will get there. He says, so if I carried on, because it was a live audience and I couldn't, but I felt myself going under and it frightened me. So I jumped up. It was like, you know, I felt like I was drowning. And basically, from what I could work out, I felt as if I'd been on a submarine, and so my camera's going again. And I thought I'd been in a previous life had been on a submarine, on a German World War II submarine, and it sunk in 1942. Now I wasn't an officer or anything like that, but I think I was one of the NCOs, and I think I missed all the war. And the reason why I think that is because I understand German pretty well. Oh, sorry, my camera keeps going.
No.
I've never studied German language at all, and I could understand when people were talking to me, and I just thought, is there little glimmers of your previous life in this life that influences what we do and how we behave? And I've been told many times I'm an old soul, and are these old souls, as they get better towards enlightenment, are those the people that become these strong mediums? Sorry, I'm really struggling.
No.
I'm really.
Well, I think you've definitely got something there, Craig.
Oh yeah,
for
you're
sure,
a wonderful soul, aren't you?
I think, you know, I could speak to you all evening, but unfortunately we're going to have to wind down now because our time is coming to an end. But,
wonderful guest. Wonderful
a really
guest.
wonderful
Thank
guest.
you very
and
much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's been really a pleasure talking to you as well. It's been wonderful, Craig.
Well, it's a great time to finish because I'm now having to currently hold the phone up.
Oh, okay.
Get that sticky tape out.
Thank you very much, Craig. And I really appreciate you coming on. And
yeah.
I'll just finish by saying thank you for joining us on the Allens Investigate. You can check us out on www.theallensinvestigate.com. We're broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans.
Bye. Till next week.
Till next week, Craig. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Craig.
I hope that we can see you again and we can continue our chat because it's been so fascinating.
Yeah, fascinating man.
They can always leave a comment on your site.
Oh.
Certainly will. Thanks very much, Craig.
Take care, Craig.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
It's fascinating with him.
Absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, he's an interesting man, Craig.
Very interesting. Well, I hope that we can continue the conversation perhaps another time.
Yes, I'm sure we will.
Because I know Craig's got lots and lots of stories to tell. So that's wonderful.
And it's now.
Joe, if you're there.
Joe.
Hello, Joe. Anyway, maybe we can continue then if we're still live. So, I mean, we've had some quite interesting experiences ourselves with things as well, because I know we were talking about when we had stuff disappearing from the house. That was quite interesting because your glasses disappeared, didn't they?
The trouble is I can't find them. I can't see.
Normally it's because they're on your head.
Oh, yeah, right. Oh, yeah, we did have a few problems with the flies in the studio. 2 flies and they got on my nerves.
But were they crawling on your shiny head? Maybe they were.
Well, they were crawling on my shiny head, yes. But I was hoping the old glare would scare them off, but it didn't, did it?
Need some sunglasses, don't they?
They're a big problem.
But I know how we met was very interesting as well, wasn't it? Because that was quite unusual.
Well, yeah. That's a long story, isn't it? But a wonderful one, and we'll no doubt we'll cover that soon. Yeah, no, it was very interesting. Maybe we should talk about that a bit because I mean it is interesting. It's a fascinating story how we got together, wasn't it? Well, are you gonna talk about it, or do you want me to? I don't know. We've got time, have we? To talk about that. I mean, we're not on for 2 hours, are we?
We're supposed to be on for just 1 hour.
Just 1 hour.
But anyway, we'll continue. If Joe is there and he wants to come and say hi, that would be great. But yeah, it's really interesting how we met because the thing is, I mean, when I went to the spiritualist church, that was a very strange experience because I met somebody there, and as soon as I arrived, he said, "You've come here for a reason, haven't you?" And I did actually. It was very interesting. So I got chatting, and I said, "Well, actually, I'd quite like to, because I've had a lot of experiences myself with the spirit world and, all sorts of interesting experiences." And I said, yeah, I'd quite like to come and sit in a mediumship circle to try and develop a bit more. And he said, well, fine. He said, I'll talk to some of the others and then come back next week, he said, and perhaps we can organise it. So that was great. So I did. He was looking kind of stony-faced the next time I saw him. And he said, well, I'm really sorry, but he said, there's a bit of a problem. He said, because they won't let you come and sit in circle until you've done, a kind of a intuition circle first to develop. So I thought, well, okay, well, I don't mind to do that. That's fine. Now, I went one week and I sat down and I was a bit early. And the first lady that walked in smiled at me and came and sat down. Anyway, to cut a long story short, that's how I met you, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, that's it. But that journey started 7 years, or at least 7 years before that, when I was on a train and I was going to Essex, and I was sitting opposite this blonde bird, well, lady. I said, not very PC, is it, saying a bird?
Not really.
But anyway, I was sitting next to this blonde lady, and a voice in my head said to me, "You'll tell her Peter." So I thought, oh, I can't say that. I don't even know her. And the voice came back again, said, "Oh, tell her Peter." So I ignored it twice, and then it came again, "Tell her Peter." So I said, "I'm sorry to interrupt you on your journey, but do you know Peter?" And she said, "Peter's my boss." She said, "How do you know?" And I said, "I'm intuitive." And she said, "Well, my friend is as well." So she said, "I've got to get off now." She said, "Let me give you my card." And she did. And well, and that was the beginning of how I met Shona. And it's an amazing story, but it's a bit long for now, isn't it, to tell, really?
Well, yeah, but I mean, to cut a long story short.
To cut a long story short, I ended up in Norfolk, and I was in Ottica's bookshop with my son, pushing my young son about, who was a young boy at the time. And I met another lady there, and this other lady.
You meet a lot of ladies, don't
I do,
you?
yes, I do. I've been well known for that. I'm meeting a lot of ladies. Anyway, that's beside the point. And I met this lady with dark hair, and I started telling her things about her life, and she said, "That's amazing. How do you know that?"